Hey guys, it's Saga, and in this video I am putting the triple cameras on the Mi 11X against the quad cameras on the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max. Now out of these two, the Mi 11X starts at 29,999 rupees, so it is more of a mid-tier phone which packs in many of the flagship level specs. But it comes with a 48 megapixel primary camera, which was a surprise move from Xiaomi. Redmi Note 10 Pro Max starts at 18,999 rupees, so it is the more budget-oriented option of the two. It packs in modest specs like you would expect a sub 20,000 rupees phone to come with. But at the back, it comes with a 108 megapixel main camera, which is supposed to blow the cameras on the Mi 11X out of the picture. Is that really what is going to happen? Or will the powerful ISP on the Snapdragon 870 processor work hard to save its images? Let's find out. I have over 160 image and video samples combined from both these phones to show you guys, so make sure to check out the complete video. If you want a detailed look at the camera interface on both these phones, I suggest you check out their individual detailed camera reviews. I will leave a card to both of them on the top right corner of your screen and also link them in the description section. Before we get to the image and video samples, if you are new to the channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button and turning on all the notifications for this channel. It's free and will take less than 5 seconds of your time. I always include video samples after we are done checking out the images, but some of you want me to show videos first, so let us start with the videos in this comparison. Both phones can shoot videos at up to 4K 30fps. Now this is fine for the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max given its price point, but like most people, I feel that the Mi 11X should have got the option to shoot 4K videos at 60fps. This cannot be added to this phone via software updates because its main camera sensor, which is Sony IMX582, isn't capable of shooting at that resolution. I took this video in overcast conditions, so you might see a bit of noise or grain from both the phones. This noise is not there if you're shooting videos in bright light, which I will show you guys in a few moments, but you might experience it when shooting videos indoors where there is not enough light. Video from the Note 10 Pro Max is noticeably brighter in these overcast situations. We see the same thing while shooting at 1080p resolution as well. There is also a distinctive cool tint in the videos from the Note 10 Pro Max, while in reality, colors were more closer to how the Mi 11X is showing in its videos, but slightly brighter. 4K videos from the Mi 11X are electronically stabilized, and they look really good, especially when compared side by side with the ones from the Note 10 Pro Max. Since there is plenty of light in this video, you will notice that both the phones are not showing any noise or grain in their videos. You will have to drop the resolution and frame rate down to 1080p 30fps to enable electronic stabilization on the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max. While this video looks good and stable, you lose out on all the sharpness and extra details that 4K videos capture. For slow motion, Mi 11X can shoot 240fps videos in 1080p, while the Note 10 Pro Max can do 120fps at the same resolution. There is 960fps shooting option on both the phones, but it is not 2960fps and it doesn't really look good, so I never use it. I found sticking to 240fps on Mi 11X and 120fps on the Note 10 Pro Max at 1080p resolution gives us best looking results. You can shoot 240fps videos on the Note 10 Pro Max, but you will have to drop the resolution to 720p, but that video doesn't have a lot of details in it. When you're shooting slow motion videos, best practice is to shoot them in bright light, preferably outside in bright sun. I'm shooting these videos under my high-powered LED light so you don't see any flickering. If you're shooting them indoors, you will get a lot of grain or noise in these videos, and depending on what lights do you have at your home, they can cause interference and you will see flickering in your slow motion shots like you can see in this particular video. You can see this in this shot because I have my room light turned on. So just keep these two things in mind if you're shooting slow motion videos. Coming to the images, we will start with the ones which I took in daytime. I managed to take some images when the sky was clear and few in overcast conditions, so it will give you a very good idea of how these cameras perform in various lighting conditions. From the first look, images from both the phones look good and detailed. The only difference you might notice without zooming in is a slight change in the white balance and color temperature between these two images. If you zoom in 2 to 3 times, that is when you will start noticing more details in the images from the Note 10 Pro Max. These are 12 megapixel pixel-based images from both the phones. If you don't zoom in, it is honestly very difficult to tell which phone has captured more details. Mi 11X's images seem to have slightly more contrast in them, whereas ones from the Note 10 Pro Max are slightly brighter in comparison. The difference in their color temperature calibration is more easily visible in these overcast images. The Mi 11X is showing the scene as it was, but the Note 10 Pro Max is adding a blue tint to its shots and trying to make the scene look much cooler than it was in real life. Both phones are capturing a lot of noise in these conditions. but images from the Note 10 Pro Max are still capturing much more details. Upon zooming in, none of these images look impressive from so close in these lighting conditions. But out of the two, Note 10 Pro Max is showing slightly sharper looking flowers. As I mentioned before, Mi 11X is showing more true to life colors, and the Note 10 Pro Max is trying to cool all of its images down. Normally I like natural looking colors, but I think ones from the Mi 11X could use a little boost in terms of saturation, because on their own, its images are looking a bit dull, and even more so when compared side by side with the ones from the Note 10 Pro Max. I know color is a personal choice, so depending on your color preference, you might like one over the other, and that is completely fine. In this case, I am leaning towards the one from the Note 10 Pro Max. I am not saying that its colors are better, it's just that I prefer them over the ones from the Mi 11X. Coming to the high dynamic range situations. I left the HDR mode on auto on these phones. Both of them take a different approach while processing HDR images. In this image, sun was right beside the building, so it was difficult for both the phones to see a lot of details in the building which was in the shadows. Both of them still managed to bring back many details from the shadows, but Mi 11X completely blew up the bright sun in the process, while the Note 10 Pro Max was able to keep most of the highlights in check. We see the same thing in this next set of images as well. Mi 11X is able to bring a lot of details from the shadows, but it blows up the highlights. Note 10 Pro Max on the other hand handles the highlights really well, but in that effort, it doesn't bring up as many details from the shadows as the Mi 11X, making the overall image appear a bit too dark. Although it blows out the highlights, I like the HDR shots from the Mi 11X because most of the areas that we tend to look at are brighter and detailed in its images, whereas they look too dark in the Note 10 Pro Max's images. I feel both these phones need a few software updates to refine their HDR mode. Mi 11X needs help handling the highlights in a better way, and the Redmi needs help with the shadows. When conditions are not too harsh, or when the sun is not directly in the shot, both of them do a good job of evenly bringing up the shadows and preserving the highlights. Out of these two, Mi 11X is quicker at setting the focus on a nearby object for these close-up shots. Note 10 Pro Max gets a bigger sensor and a wider aperture, so the plane of focus is very narrow on its main camera, and that makes it a bit difficult for it to set the focus on a very close object quickly. But once the focus is set, the subject appears very sharp, and the background gets a very nice optical blur in the images from both these phones. Redmi has a much bigger sensor, so the background in its close-up shots gets a bit more blurred out. Having a bigger sensor is not always the best thing, especially while taking close-up shots. As you can see, the petals in the image from the Mi 11X are in perfect sharp focus, but a very small area is in focus in the image from the Note 10 Pro Max, and there is a bit of fringing and distortion in the petals which are not in focus. You will see this thing in almost all close-up shots from the Note 10 Pro Max. If you want sharper close-up shots from this phone, you will need to move a few inches away from the subject. If you want to get even closer to your subject, both these phones come with dedicated macro cameras, and you can see it lets you get a lot closer to the main subject compared to the primary camera. It is amazing that you can get incredibly close to your subject and still set the focus while using this macro lens. Both the phones have a similar sensor and lens setup for these cameras, so these images are almost identical from both. Macro lens has a 5 megapixel sensor behind it, which is over 2 times better than the 2 megapixel macro cameras that we see on most of the phones, so there are enough details in the subject which is in focus in these shots. I know everyone is not interested in taking macro shots with their phones, but if you get any of these two phones, try out this camera and you will be amazed by how the world looks via this lens. Both phones also get wide cameras, and these cameras are again almost similar on both. Note 10 Pro Max gets a 1 degree wider field of view on this lens, but I don't think anyone will notice this slight difference. Any difference that you will notice between these images is due to the processing that both these cameras choose to apply. You see better dynamic range from the wide camera on the Note 10 Pro Max. Wide shots are not as sharp or detailed as the ones from the primary cameras on either of these phones. Although these images are supposed to look same from both, if we zoom in, we see slightly more details in the wide shots from the Note 10 Pro Max. Due to the superior ISP on the Snapdragon 870 processor, I would have expected the wide shots from the Mi 11X to be slightly sharper, but that is not the case. Other than the detail levels, we also see a shift in color temperature and white balance as you switch the lenses on both these phones. Wide images from the Note 10 Pro Max are not trying to aggressively cool the scene down as its main camera. Now I remember using the camera on this Note 10 Pro Max when it came out, and there wasn't this big of a difference between these two lenses. I guess one of the software updates might have messed with it. In either case, this is something that can be fixed with a software update. All the images from main cameras on both these phones were 12 megapixel pixel binned ones. If you want to capture high resolution images, you can switch to the 48 megapixel mode on the Mi 11X, and 108 megapixel mode on the Note 10 Pro Max. Now there is definitely a big difference between the 48 and 108 megapixel images, but just like with the pixel binned images, you won't be able to see this difference without zooming way in. If you like to take a lot of high resolution images, Note 10 Pro Max captures much more details in its shots. These images are 3 to 4 times larger in terms of file size, so I really think it is best to stick with the default 12 megapixel mode for shooting most of your shots on both these phones, especially in overcast conditions like these. Or else, you will see a lot of noise being captured in these shots. This happens because when you are not shooting in the pixel bin mode, size of each individual pixel becomes very small and these tiny pixels are not able to gather enough light, so the processor ends up adding artificial light by increasing the ISO, which in the end adds a lot of noise to these shots in less than ideal lighting conditions. If you are a long-time subscriber of the channel, you know that I love taking portrait shots with my phone. Note 10 Pro Max comes with a depth sensor, whereas the Mi 11X relies on software to separate the subject from its background. Both the methods seem to be working as they should. I mentioned this in my Mi 11X's camera review, that if the background is brighter than your subject, it will completely overexpose the shot. So to take better portrait shots with the Mi 11X, if you see the shot being overexposed, tap on the subject on your screen or adjust the exposure manually to get better exposed portrait shots. The Note 10 Pro Max doesn't have this issue. You can just point it at your subject and it takes amazing looking portrait shots. Edge detection is mostly accurate from both the phones. I feel the Mi 11X is capturing pale looking skin tones, whereas the Note 10 Pro Max makes the skin look as it should. I think this is again where a bit of saturation could help the Mi 11X's images look much better. For portrait shots of things, I feel the edge detection is a bit more accurate on the Note 10 Pro Max. It seems that the depth sensor is better at separating the subject from the background when the subject has complex edges. And this one, both did a very good job to separate the flowers from the leaves and rest of the background. If you don't use portrait mode very often, I think you should start using it because it is the easiest way to make your images look more professional. With that, let us move on to the images shot in artificial and lower lighting conditions. In artificial light, Note 10 Pro Max is adding a slight pink hue to some of its shots. Lights in this lobby are slightly warm like you see in the image from the Mi 11X and not pinkish like you see in the Redmi's image. Just like we saw in overcast lighting conditions, both of them again capture noise in these lighting conditions as well. And it only increases as we move to even lower light. None of them have optical image stabilization, which would have helped them reduce this noise. We can't really expect OIS to be available on the Note 10 Pro Max as it is a sub 20,000 rupees phone, but the lack of OIS on the Mi 11X came as a bit of surprise to everyone given its price point. Like everyone, I expected the bigger sensor on the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max to capture sharper and detailed images in these lighting conditions. But as we zoom in, we see much more details in the low light shots from the Mi 11X. With extra details, noise levels also seem to be more in its images. Low light performance of the Note 10 Pro Max is really not up to the mark. Even with the night mode turned on, you don't see a big improvement in its low light images. I mean, Mi 11X's low light performance is nothing out of the ordinary, but it still seems to be doing better in this comparison detail wise. This is another example where more megapixels doesn't really mean better images. Image processing matters even more in today's day and age. Note 10 Pro Max is showing the pink tint in more and more shots as we move to even lower light. I took these two images in extreme low light with the night mode turned on. Both of them seem to have captured good amount of light given the available conditions, but the Mi 11X's images are again sharper, brighter and more detailed. While neither one of these two are good at low light photography, but if these two are your only options, you should know that the Mi 11X is slightly better at it. That brings us to the front-facing cameras. Mi 11X gets a 20 megapixel front-facing camera and its selfies have more details compared to the ones from the 16 megapixel one from the Note 10 Pro Max. You will have to compare these selfies side by side and zoom in to see this difference. Overall colors and skin tones from the Note 10 Pro Max are a bit inconsistent while taking normal selfies. In this one, it is showing a bit pale looking skin, whereas Mi 11X is doing a good job. But in this one, colors from the Redmi are looking better. And again in this next one, it fades the colors a bit. Overall, if you look at these selfies on the respective phones, I feel you will be satisfied with both of them. Colors and dynamic range in the images from the Mi 11X take a big hit when you switch to shooting portrait selfies. Suddenly it desaturates the colors and even skin tones appear a bit off. Note 10 Pro on the other hand starts doing a better job with portrait selfies. Faces are in perfectly sharp focus provided you have turned the beauty mode or skin smoothing off, and the edge detection is also accurate for the most part. Given their inconsistencies in capturing accurate colors, I would say both the selfie cameras are on the same level. Details wise, Mi 11X does produce tad bit sharper looking images. Here's a video from the front facing camera of the Mi 11X and the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max. You can see how both these phones are handling the overall colors of the scene, exposure and stabilization when I'm walking around with them. You can also let me know in the comments which one of these two do you think is handling my voice better. With that, we have seen over 165 image and video samples from both these phones combined. After going through all of them, although the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max comes up on top most of the times, I don't think that the difference was that much, and in lower light, Mi 11X actually performs better. Prior to taking these image and video samples, I thought the Note 10 Pro Max is going to win this comparison hands down. But the results are not that simple. Even with the 108 megapixel main camera, Note 10 Pro Max doesn't best the 48 megapixel camera on the Mi 11X in every department. In many scenarios, image processing on the Mi 11X actually makes its camera perform almost as good, or in case of lower light, even better. I will say this again. The megapixel count alone doesn't decide if the camera on any phone is going to be good or bad. It has to be backed by a good image signal processor. Imagine how poorly this same 48 megapixel sensor would have performed if it was put on the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max, or how much better the 108 megapixel camera would have been if it was backed by the Snapdragon 870 processor on the Mi 11X. All in all, if you are planning to get the Mi 11X and are worried about its cameras, don't be. It is doing the best it can with the hardware that it has got. At that price, you are getting a very good overall performing phone. If you don't want to spend as much, go with the Note 10 Pro Max and be proud of the fact that other than in lower light, your phone's camera can go head to head and in many cases even beat the cameras on the Mi 11X. These are my thoughts about the cameras on both these phones after going through all the images. You guys saw all these images too, so what do you guys think about them? Let me know in the comments. If you want to purchase any of these phones, I will really appreciate if you buy them from the affiliate links in the description section. That is it for this video guys. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel for more quality tech videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.